Using our property import add-on, you can import your properties automatically from over 40 different software providers. Once installed and activated, the plugin will appear alongside other WordPress plugins in the plugins area. To access the settings area, you can click settings, or from the left-hand menu in Property Hive, you'll have a new option of import properties. You'll have two options, automatic and manual. Firstly, automatic means the properties will be imported automatically in the background at regular intervals, or manual is great if you wanted to do an initial import of properties. Most of the time, we'll be doing automatic. To set up an automatic import, ensure automatic is ticked and click continue. You will then be taken through a step-by-step wizard to help you set up your import. The first selection is import format. From this drop-down, you can see a list of the formats that we support. Depending on the format chosen, the options shown below will change, as different formats require different information. These details can be obtained from the relevant software provider. Once the details have been entered, continue down the page and you'll see you've got various other options. Firstly is branch information. Here, you can map properties received in the data to offices you have set up in Property Hive under the settings area. Within the data, there will normally be a unique ID, code or name that you can enter into the boxes on the right. When a property is received with this relevant ID, it will tag it to that office accordingly. Further down the page we have additional options. Firstly, import frequency. How often do we want the import to run? By default, it's hourly. However, depending on the format, you can choose different frequencies. Please note that some formats, such as Dupix, may only allow you to import at certain frequencies, and importing at higher frequencies may get you blacklisted. Next up is, do we want the import to start running immediately? We can pause, stop and resume the import at any time later on. Don't remove properties automatically. When a property comes off the market or out of the data, by default we'll take it off the market in Property Hive and therefore it will be removed from search results. Tick this option if you want to leave these properties on the site. Next up is, what do we want to happen when a property is removed from the data? By default we'll do nothing, but a common thing we see is that over time servers become full with media. As a result, we give you various options regarding what to do when a property is removed. Do we want to remove all media? Do we want to remove all media except the first image? This is great if someone was to stumble across the property URL at a later date, we'd still have the first image to show. Alternatively, do we want to draft the property or delete the property? Bear in mind that choosing any of these actions will result in a 404 error should someone stumble across the URL at a later date. Next up is, do we want to enable email reports? What this will do is every time an import completes, a log will be sent to the entered email address. Lastly, we have the option to process the imports in chunks. This is great if your site is slowing down when the imports are running. You can specify how many properties to process at a time, as well as the pause between each set of properties. Next up, we come to the mapping stage. Here, we are mapping the values received in the data to the values you have set up in Property Hive under the settings area. On the left, the data we receive, and on the right, the value we want to assign it to in Property Hive. The list of options on the left-hand side will differ depending on the format you have selected, and you can also add additional ones should you have customized these within your software. Again, on the left, we can enter the value received, and on the right, map it to the relevant value in Property Hive. We do this for each custom field: availability, property type, price qualifier, tenure, and in some cases, some data will have furnished or location as well. Once we've gone through and mapped them as best we can click Finish, and our import is set up. From the main import screen, we have various information. We have the format, any details that are entered, how often we want it to run, as well as seeing when it was last ran and when it is next due to run. We can see its status, inactive or active, and if it's currently inactive, we can start the import. From then it will run automatically. You can see when it was last run, in this case it hasn't ran yet so it's blank, and when it's next due to run. We can then pause it, we can edit it should we want to make a change to any of the details or the mapping we just did, and last but not least, we can view the logs. Here, once an import has ran, you will see a detailed breakdown of everything that happened during each time the import ran. This is great if maybe a property isn't importing or the import isn't running, and we can check here for any errors.